Dragon slayed, Stark joined, Fern's a menace, and that's kind of where we're at. We got some backstory on some people, specifically Stark, and some goals and dreams and things out of the way, and we're moving forward now as a unit. Hopefully we continue our quest and our journey here and things go well, and that's all I can kind of ask for. I'm very excited. I'm absolutely loving everything about the show. I keep saying I feel like every week, but I find myself thinking about it like a lot after I'm done watching each episode, and I'm just like, damn, that was great. And then the whole next week I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, damn, I missed this. And then the day to record it comes around, and then I get too lazy and I don't do it. And then we come here 1 or 2 days later, and then I do it. And then I say, damn, I should have did it yesterday or the day before, Anyways, my issue's out of the way. I'm very excited to see kind of what we're getting into. I have no real guesses or things, but I'm assuming the journey just continues, and maybe we meet a new member. I feel like there's got to be 4, right? So maybe something like that happens. But also there's a strong chance that if there is, we don't meet them like till later. I feel like that could be a more fun route. Make sure that you get familiarized with like the dynamic and everything between what we have now, rather than kind of introducing somebody instantly, which could also be a fun thing. And then you can also use the introduction of a new member at some other point down the line, that to help us through like a battle or something difficult, or help us along the way with something, which could be a bit more fun. You can also do that now, I guess, but just always something to keep in mind. And it keeps it a little bit more fresh, because then you don't have to feel like you have your set group instantly as opposed to later. So I guess I'd just be interested to see the route that they go with that. If you like it all, though, hit the like and subscribe to me. To me, feel free to stick around for the discussion, leave any comments with this specific series. This is a Toho show. They finally started getting around to blocking the videos, so at some point this is going to end up getting blocked by them, because they're the worst company in the world. And then you're just gonna have to click the link in the description if you would like to still watch the reaction. I just upload them there. All I ask is you come back here and at least leave a like, and if you want to listen to the discussion as well, just so I feel like my actions of spending money to upload videos to that website that I use is justified, because if not, I'm just draining money for no reason. But well, it doesn't really matter, I guess. Let's get going though, episode 6. Let me just say, as I always like to, this shit's great. It's so fucking fun to watch and interesting to see just the way that they approach the topic of like the demons, for example, that they're dealing with here, right? Instead of taking the route where we're going to create them and make them into something that could be like humans, and we can coexist and we can kind of get along, or there's sides to them and things that we just don't understand, and it's like years and years of constantly being at battle with each other, and we're not taking this opportunity to sit back and actually properly hear each other out and live together, and coexist as something like that, instead of taking that sort of route, or just doing something where we just can't see eye to eye for whatever reason, instead of trying to do something where there's something in them that makes you want to have a world where we live together. Because there's always those stories, right? And you always take like one character, whether it be the main character or somebody on the side, or somebody who wants to save them, right? And who wants to be that hero in a way, the way that Himmel wanted to sit around and actually watch and see what happens, right? He wanted to be like, look, I was doing good by letting this person live, because he wanted to have faith and believe in these people, for something like that. And typically it feels like a lot of stories will actually go that route, and they try and make it some sort of way that you can kind of relate or understand, and see that sometimes people are just misunderstood or misrepresented in certain ways, whatever the situation is. But typically when you think of like monsters or demons or any of these other things, right? You think of things that are like bad and evil, or trying to kill you, or like overly aggressive, will eat humans. They're predators, right? And you think of them in that sort of light. But the problem is, whenever you get them in anime for whatever reason, and maybe it's just because you can create more of an interesting story, or at least you could have at a certain point, you turn them into being this other thing, because it's a little too straightforward just to straight shoot it and be like, oh, demons, evil, bad, we kill, like it's a little too simplistic, and it doesn't really feel like there's any like real substance there. So we take the thing that's changed so much, what you believe, and then what they actually do all the time in anime instead now, and we go back to the roots a little bit more, but we give them a bit more of a human feel. We give them a bit more of they fully are understanding of what what we're trying to say and can fully comprehend these types of things. But at the end of the day, they're predators, right? At the end of the day, their goal is not to see eye to eye with us or to live and to coexist. And it's funny too, because they can live on the complete opposite end of the thing I just explained, right? Instead of having somebody like Himmel or having somebody in our main party now, I guess, like Stark or Fern, whoever we want to end up choosing, and instead of having them be the ones who's like, we're going to try and coexist, or we're going to try and understand them and make sure that they're, you know, properly represented and we actually understand that they're not evil or they're not all bad or whatever the situation is, we can flip that entirely and we can put that on the demons. If this was a story following them, maybe there's one of them who, instead of living this evil way, this predatory way in which the rest of them are trying to live right now, we can instead have one person on this other side of this other species in a way and have them look at that and be like, I'm going to be the person, or I believe that we can all live together, and they're going to be the ones who work towards it. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to go down a route or do something, but it's interesting to note that somebody on the opposite end and opposite side, essentially, of us might be the one in this situation to be trying to kind of change the way that everybody else like views things and operates on their own end, as opposed to actually seeing somebody on our side, as in like our main cast and the people that we follow, do that, which I think is great. But entirely, I don't think that's the case. I think we're just more so going down the route where we're like, they're very intelligent people or creatures and things that can fully, you know, comprehend and understand the things that are going on. But instead, they still act out of self-interest entirely. And that's all they really care about, is them and the things that they can do and what they're capable of, right? And I think that that is fantastic and very fascinating to think about the direction that we kind of take that. And I love the way that they're just kind of represented and brought up here within this story in this show. And I feel like it does such a good job at constantly, other things too that we've seen before, representing things in either more typical ways or just different ways than what we're used to seeing. And I think that it does a really excellent job and makes me very happy to kind of see stuff like this, because I personally am getting, you know, a little tired of like every time you always have that person who's trying to like preach and save things. And it's just like, no, get rid of this person, you know, like, or get rid of them. Like, they're not good. And instead of trying to hear them out and understand everything, sometimes you don't want a story like that. Sometimes you just want like good to be good and bad to be bad. Like, straight shoot it, let it be what it is, you know? And I think that's great. But when we make bad, but also intelligent at the same time, it makes things a little bit more fun, which is kind of what we're doing here. So I very much like that. Also, it's interesting just to see FRIEREN's similarities in a way to the demons here. I think that that's very interesting. Like, she's not, I'm not saying that she has like a ton of similarities or things, but it's just more like her emotions, they seem to lack them completely, or almost like that they can't fully, even though they seem to be very intelligent things, can't fully comprehend the things that they're trying to say, and really don't have these like types of emotional connections or whatever it is. And just the way that she kind of presents herself too, just like the deadpan face, or like the straight face that she just keeps while she's even getting like dragged away or thrown into jail or whatever, like it's the usual, or she's just kind of understands and just doesn't really care too much about what's going on. It's the same thing with them. They don't show like a lot of emotion on their face, or they're like anything that we've kind of seen. Even the girl who ended up, you know, killing the family and didn't want to die and stuff, she's just saying things, but she's not like really selling it by showing the emotion or whatever, which I think is a interesting thing, just because FRIEREN's so similar in a way. I don't know if there's too much to really to read into that, and it's just more of like an observation that I've noticed, but I thought that was just funny how all the humans within here are actually being shown as like kind of different, because like Stark or maybe Fern or whoever else we were seeing within the town, right, all had like these strong emotions and let that stuff kind of overwhelm them and get the best of them at moments. Well, all these other people, FRIEREN included, and all the demons and stuff, stay rather calm and stay rather like nothing really affects them, and they can actually just be that kind of calm-natured person. And I don't know, it's an interesting connection, I guess. The idea of introducing us here too, and talking about how things can kind of turn into fairy tales over time, right? Sometimes you get so many of these things that are faked, and then so many people start questioning what's actually real and what wasn't, and there are so little like traces and things actually left behind. It makes it harder for you to distinguish what's real and what's fake and what actually is out there and what isn't, and everything essentially turns into a fairy tale at a certain point, or turns into this thing where nobody actually knows the truth, and we're all just kind of making up our own tales over it, which is something that FRIEREN's unfortunately had to struggle with entirely, seeing her master and seeing this person who she kind of looks up to or wants to have this closer connection to or understanding of the things that they knew and felt and saw, right? And not being able to. And that's why we're going on this journey, so that she even has an opportunity to get that stuff. But also like the whole Himmel thing and everything, I get that too. But she has this opportunity when we ultimately get to it. And they bring that really nice, like they wrap it all up really nice when they kind of introduce the idea of Himmel later, where he talks about the idea that we're not fairy tales as people. We live, we die, you know. And while she might be of an elf and might be somebody who's going to live fucking however long that they usually do, it's not something that can kind of just go unnoticed or go where we should be okay being forgotten, right? And also for her own sake, which I think was like the sweetest thing that he kind of said that, you know, and make her, as somebody who fully understands what it's like to kind of lose this or start questioning what was real and what actually wasn't out there, you know, and maybe even bring her to a point where she starts questioning her own memories and things. Was all these things that I'm actually remembering like actually true? Were these people even here? Because who knows what happens after so long, and how long or how much the fucking brain can store at a certain point, right? Like, I don't know how deep they're going to try and go into all of that stuff. But at the same time, we create these statues and create these things so that other people can continuously live this on, and nobody has to question if you're a real person who actually was here doing these things. And also, so you as a person don't have to question that either, and you can always kind of relive and see these things and remember the memories and stuff when you come back to these towns and stuff, when you see all these statues, which I think is a really, really excellent way kind of them of approaching this moment. Fucking beautiful. The fact that she wakes up literally before noon for like the first time ever, and then we just have to like completely pamper her, right? Because of course it's a brilliant sight and something that Fern's literally never seen before, or maybe she has, but it's like so rare that we have to kind of treat her great because of. We clear the side of the road, which is pretty fun. I really love just how we're still kind of just going on FRIEREN's own journey. We're letting her do her own thing, you know, do whatever she has to, do these little odd jobs and stuff that she's doing along the way. We don't have to take like a dangerous route or do anything. We can go and do things however we want. Fun little gag here where Fern just like refuses to not address him by Sama, or whenever she doesn't, she's just kind of overly like rude and stuff. So she uses that as a way to kind of like tame herself and make sure that she's not like overly rude to him. And then he just kind of realizes it and accepts it after a certain point. I love her head like popping over this too and talking to him. Fun info too about FRIEREN here and her species. I guess it's the elves, and how they kind of don't repopulate and don't have like these sexual like desires or interests or anything, and don't really go for that stuff. So they're kind of becoming extinct and dying out over time, and there's not many of them out there. It explains, I guess, a lot of her emotions and stuff that we've kind of seen and how she is. I think that truly explains that. And also explains why we've seen such a lack of them, and such a lack of really exploring or explaining, you know, the type of species that she is and how long, you know, they live and how, like, what they're capable of or what makes them so different from everybody else, and just not really exploring that or going into it, because there's not so many of them that it's probably not common knowledge to most people because they've never really seen them. I mean, somebody like her who hasn't seen one in another 400 years, it's pretty likely that everybody else that she meets too probably hasn't seen one either. So a lot of that stuff is going to become these fairy tales and stuff that we've talked about as well, and nobody really knows what's probably fact and fiction, I guess, when it comes to elves and stuff themselves. This is the whole Himmel section again with the statues and stuff, and I think it's a great way that they kind of did it. I also love how this guy just did not realize the entire time that the person that he's talking to and kept saying, oh, I never met an elf and did all this stuff, and he's literally seen this statue of her all the time. It's the stupidest thing. Her immediately realizing when she ends up seeing him and realizing that he's a demon, that we have to kind of go out of our way and attack her, or attack them, but everybody else kind of has a problem with it, of course, because of whatever other reasons, and they don't have the same kind of knowledge and experience and stuff like she does, which is fully understandable why they would act that way. And I love too her just getting picked up and dragged off like this and just not like seeming like she fucking cares. And then also when she gets put in prison here, she's like, all right, like this is the norm, like this always happens to her, and she's just like accepted of it. And even Fern just like, you really just love wasting your time, don't you? Like just not even caring, or not even like getting like overly angry or anything about it, just kind of leaving it at that, which I think is fun. The backstory of this is great to fully explain it. I think this is the perfect situation to explain how they kind of are. You see somebody, especially a helpless child who's completely beaten and about to be dead, and people are trying to call for its life, right? And you want to be that hero such as Himmel or whoever else in the situation. situation and you want to, of course, go out of your way and save the person, because you can't just see this child die, right? Like, you can't just let that happen. So you give them an opportunity. You feed them, you give them shelter, like everything that you possibly can. Give them a family, a life, and then everything gets turned around one day and they kill you. And then they hit you with some bullshit lines like she was too. Oh, I brought you a replacement daughter. Sorry about what I did before, you know? And then getting asked and questioned, why did you keep mentioning mom and stuff? You're not raised by like family. You don't have all of this, right? And she's just like, shit, it's an easy way to connect to you, right? You felt something when I said it, didn't you? Like, I don't feel anything, but you might have. And it's a real wake up call of like, fuck, these people are evil. If this is really their goal, and their goal is to sit here and deceive you and do whatever they can and act fully out of self interest and not care for you or other races and species, right? It's a problem. It's something that you don't really want to deal with, but it's a interesting thing. This conversation is another good example with the demons here, and how the lack of emotion from everybody else, but the humans in the situation are completely overwhelmed with it, right? And it's just completely showing like night and day difference between the two of them. And then the use of him also coming out and being like, look, you kept this nice because, you know, your father or whoever it was, his son, I don't remember what he said, his son, I think, you kept this room exactly as it was, you know, and you did it for him. I do it for my dad too, you know. It's a thing that we do too. We can relate, you know, we can connect. You just got to keep us alive, you know. It happens. You killed my dad, like, and then asking him who's your dad, and he's like, oh, I don't even fucking know, like, I don't know what you're talking about, because once again, they don't have families, they don't do this, like, it's all acts of deception, which I think is great. But he gets all angry here and decides to approach FRIEREN. I love the way she takes this conversation, and she's like, "Oh, I'm pretty strong, you know. I'm even stronger than the person that you kind of fall under here. I'm just saying, you don't know, you might not really have a chance." Which is great, and it's gonna be really fun to kind of get into and us to move forward with going forward. I'm very excited. I love so much about this. I think the ways that they kind of take different things and look at them is unique and a little bit different, and it's very fun and refreshing to kind of see. I think all the characters are great. I think the main three that we've been dealing with, our dynamics between them are great. FRIEREN is like my favorite person like ever. I've actually loving her character so much. Usually it takes me a bit to get like really attached to a character. I like them, but like, my god, am I loving her so much. And just like all the remarks and stuff that Fern randomly like throws out, or like how she acts in certain moments too, are just great. It's a great dynamic between all of them, and they're doing a excellent job at kind of showing that off and making me beyond thrilled to be able to watch this. So that's gonna probably be it for me. Leave any comments of this episode or series. Just love to read them or see what other people have to say. Maybe I missed things or misunderstood things, or you just want to add things or give your own experiences and thoughts. I would love to just kind of see what you got to say. If you liked it all, though, hit like and subscribe. They mean a lot to me. Feel free to check out the other videos on the channel. I'll be back for episode 8 next week. You guys have a good one though. Peace.